My girlfriend told me to step aside for a richer man, so I stopped paying her bills and her card declined on her new date. My girlfriend looked me straight in the eye and said, "If you can't afford my lifestyle, then step aside for someone who can." So I said, "You're absolutely right." Then I stopped paying her credit card bills immediately. She called me screaming when her card declined at a Michelin star restaurant while she was out with her new date. This happened 6 months ago, and somehow I am still getting texts about it. So here is the full story. I am 31, male, and I work as an industrial engineer for a manufacturing company in Michigan. I started there right out of college, worked my way up from the floor, and eventually made it into management. I make a good salary. I have decent benefits. I own my condo outright because I bought it during the 2019 dip and paid it off early. I drive a 2018 Ford F-150 that is completely paid off. I have a solid 401k. I have an emergency fund that could cover me for a full year. My investment portfolio is doing pretty well. I am not rich by any means, but I am comfortable and I am smart with money. My place is nothing flashy, but it is mine. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and an updated kitchen I renovated myself last year. I installed new cabinets, granite countertops, and stainless appliances. I learned how to tile the backsplash from YouTube videos, and it actually came out decent. I have my workshop set up in the garage, with all my tools organized on pegboards. On weekends, I am either working on the truck, hitting the gym, or meal prepping for the week because eating out every day is exactly how people stay broke. The truck was a calculated purchase. I found it at a dealership 3 states over with only 35,000 miles on it. The previous owner was some retiree who barely drove it. I drove out there on a Saturday, inspected every inch of it, checked the Carfax 3 times, and got them down $4,000 from the asking price because I showed up with cash and was not afraid to walk away. The thing runs like new, and I do all the maintenance myself. Oil changes, brake pads, fluid checks. It saves me hundreds every year, and I know the work is done right. I am the kind of guy who tracks every expense in a spreadsheet, has separate savings accounts for different goals, and reads financial blogs for fun. My friends think I am boring, but they are also the same people calling me when they need to borrow money, or when they do not understand their 401k options. After a couple of relationships that ended because I was too focused on saving or not spontaneous enough, I had pretty much accepted that financial responsibility was not exactly a turn-on for most people. Then I met Olivia at a company networking event in March 2023. She worked in pharmaceutical sales. She was always dressed sharp, and she had this confidence that made her stand out in a room. We started talking about travel, and she mentioned wanting to visit Japan someday. I had actually been there on a work trip, and we ended up talking for nearly 2 hours about Tokyo and Kyoto. She gave me her number. We grabbed coffee that weekend, and things took off from there. The coffee date was at this local place. She suggested one of those trendy spots with exposed brick and overpriced lattes. She ordered some complicated drink with oat milk and lavender syrup that cost about $8. I got a regular coffee for $3. We sat there for 3 hours just talking, and she seemed genuinely impressed when I mentioned that I owned my place and had my finances sorted out at 31. Dating Olivia felt different from anyone I had been with before. She appreciated nice things, good restaurants, weekend getaways, designer handbags, but early on, she always offered to split bills, or she would treat me sometimes. She had her own money from sales commissions, drove a newer BMW she leased, and lived in a nice apartment downtown. At the time, it seemed like we were on the same page financially. The BMW was a white 3 Series with black leather interior. She talked about it like it was a personality trait. BMW girls are just different, she would say while posting Instagram stories of the steering wheel logo. I later found out she was paying $650 a month for it, with nothing to show at the end of the lease. But hey, not my money. Her apartment was one of those luxury buildings with a doorman and a gym nobody uses. Rent was probably around $2,200 for a 1 bedroom. But it had floor-to-ceiling windows and looked impressive on social media. She decorated it entirely from Home Goods in West Elm, everything matching and carefully curated for the aesthetic. I remember thinking it looked more like a showroom than a place someone actually lived. Our first real trip together was a weekend in Chicago in May. We split the hotel, we split meals, we split the Uber rides. She posted a million photos, but she never made me feel like I had to bankroll her Instagram content. It felt balanced. She even insisted on buying my ticket to this architecture boat tour I wanted to do. Things were good. The hotel was this boutique place in River North that she found on some travel blog. Nice enough, but not crazy expensive. Around $220 a night, split between us. We walked everywhere to save on transportation. We grabbed deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's. We visited the Art Institute. It was actually fun. She took photos constantly, but nothing over the top. She just seemed like a normal person who liked documenting her life. By July, things were getting serious. She had started leaving clothes at my place. We were doing dinners with each other's families and talking about future plans in that vague someday kind of way. Her parents seemed to like me. Her dad owned a small construction company, and he appreciated that I had a trade background before going into engineering. Her mom kept making comments about me being stable and reliable. Her dad, Robert, was the kind of guy who respected hard work. Self-made. Built his company from nothing. Drove a beat-up Chevy, even though he could afford better. When I visited for family dinners, he and I would talk about business and construction projects. He would always pull me aside to show me whatever renovation project he was working on in their house. The guy was genuinely solid. Her mom, Patricia, was different. She was extremely focused on appearances and what the neighbors thought, always dressed up, even for casual family dinners. The house looked like it belonged in a magazine. She would make subtle comments about Olivia doing so well for herself and how important it was to maintain a certain lifestyle. That should have been my first warning sign. Around August, I noticed that the whole split the bill thing started disappearing. Olivia would suggest expensive restaurants, and when the check came, she would just sit there expectantly. Or she would plan weekend trips without mentioning costs until after booking everything. I started covering more and more expenses without really thinking about it. I figured this was just what relationships did. You get more comfortable. You treat your partner. Whatever. The restaurant thing started subtly. She would say, "Let's try that new Italian place." And I would agree, thinking it would be like $30 per person. Then we would get there, and entrees were $45 each, glasses of wine were $18, and suddenly we were walking out $150 lighter. And she would just assume I was paying. No real thank you. No offer to split. Just, "Thanks, babe," and a kiss on the cheek. Then came the Nordstrom incident in September. We were at the mall, just browsing, and she found this Kate Spade purse. She absolutely loved it. The thing was around $380. She kept going on about how perfect it was for her new work outfits, how it would last forever, and how it was actually an investment piece. Then she looked at me with these puppy eyes and said, "Babe, early birthday present?" Her birthday was not until January. I bought it because saying no felt weird, and I did not want to seem cheap. She posted 17 Instagram stories about it, tagged me in half of them, and called me the best boyfriend ever. Her friends commented with heart emojis, "He's a keeper," and relationship goals. Looking back, that purse was the beginning of the end. That was when she learned I would say yes. After the purse, things ramped up. She needed new shoes for work. $200 heels from some designer I had never heard of. She wanted to try that new sushi place everyone was posting about. $160 dinner for two, where we each got like 6 pieces of fish and left hungry. Then her car needed new tires. Somehow, that became my problem too. Another $600. Every time I hesitated, she would hit me with, "I thought you cared about me," or "I just want us to enjoy life together," or my personal favorite, "You're so focused on money, you're missing out on making memories." Yeah, memories. Like the memory of watching her spend $140 at Sephora on makeup she already owned in different shades. Or the memory of her buying 3 nearly identical black dresses because she needed options. Real priceless stuff. The tire thing still drives me crazy when I think about it. She came over one Saturday morning nearly in tears because the BMW dealership said she needed new tires and it was going to cost $800. I was thinking, okay, that is her car, her lease, her responsibility, but she kept going on about how she was tight on money that month. And what if she got a flat and it was not safe? And what if something happened and I would never forgive myself? Classic guilt trip. The safety angle, the what ifs, the tears. I fell for it completely. I ended up calling around to local shops and found a place that could do it for $650 with a better tire brand than what the dealership quoted. I took her car and myself on a Saturday, even though I had planned to work on my own truck's brake pads. I waited 3 hours in their uncomfortable waiting room, reading outdated magazines while they did the work. Then I paid for it on my credit card. She picked up the car that evening, said thanks, gave me a kiss, and posted on Instagram about having car trouble, but how her amazing boyfriend handled it like a champ. There were 17 comments about how lucky she was, 8 heart emojis, 3 people asking where she found me, 0 mention of the $650 I had just spent, 0 offer to pay me back, Zero acknowledgement that this was her responsibility that somehow became mine. I justified it at the time. That is what good boyfriends do, right? They take care of their partner's problems. They make sure their partner is safe. They become the reliable guy who solves issues. It did not matter that she had probably spent $650 on clothes and makeup in the previous 2 weeks alone. It did not matter that she had a job and income. I was the man, so apparently I was supposed to handle it. Looking back, that was the exact toxic mindset she was exploiting. That whole "a real man takes care of his woman" thing that sounds traditional and romantic, but is actually just code for "fund my lifestyle and do not ask questions." October was when things started getting weird. She began making comments about my condo being cute in that tone that meant the opposite. She asked why I did not lease a newer truck like successful guys did. She started comparing me to her coworkers' boyfriends, who apparently took them to expensive resorts and bought them designer everything. The condo comments hurt, not going to lie. I had put months of work into that place. I renovated the kitchen myself, watching YouTube tutorials on how to properly install cabinets and make sure the tile was level. I refinished the hardwood floors over a 3-day weekend, spending hours on my hands and knees with a drum sander and what felt like 15 coats of polyurethane. I updated all the fixtures. I replaced the old brass hardware with modern brushed nickel. I installed dimmer switches in every room. It was clean, well-maintained, and paid off at 31 years old, when most people my age were drowning in debt. But according to Olivia, it did not have the wow factor she expected. She would make casual remarks while we watched TV on my couch, which I had bought with cash 3 years earlier. "Jordan's boyfriend just bought them a house in that new development across town," she said one night. 3 bedrooms, 2-car garage, granite island in the kitchen. She was showing me photos and it's gorgeous. "Good for Jordan," I said. "How much did her boyfriend go into debt for that mortgage?" It's not about debt. It's about providing a nice life for your partner. Or she would scroll through Instagram and say, "Oh wow, Amanda's dating this guy who drives a Range Rover. Says it's so much nicer than her old car. He just got the new model." "Range Rovers are money pits," I said. "They depreciate like crazy. Parts are expensive. They're always in the shop. You're so negative about everything. Why can't you just appreciate nice things?" I tried to explain financial responsibility. I tried to explain how paying off my mortgage early meant I had way more money to save and invest. I tried to explain how leasing a fancy car meant you were just renting it and had nothing to show at the end except years of $700 monthly payments. I tried to explain how those successful guys with the big houses and luxury cars were probably leveraged up to their eyeballs in debt and one job loss away from losing everything. She would nod along, but I could tell she was not hearing me. To her, looking successful was more important than actually being financially stable. The appearance of wealth mattered more than the reality of it. She wanted the Instagram aesthetic, the luxury car in the driveway, the modern house with the open floor plan, the designer clothes, the expensive dinners at trendy restaurants. What she did not want was the boring work of actually building wealth. Budgeting, saving, delayed gratification. Smart financial decisions that do not photograph well for social media. She never once asked about my investment portfolio that was approaching 6 figures. She never cared that I maxed out my 401k every year. She never showed interest in the fact that I had zero debt and could weather pretty much any financial storm. Those things did not matter because you cannot post them on Instagram. Around mid-October, she started dropping hints about how we should take a trip somewhere exotic for our 1-year anniversary coming up in March. Maldives, Bora Bora, Santorini. Places where the flights alone would cost more than $2,000 per person before even factoring in hotels and food. I suggested a long weekend road trip instead, maybe Nashville or Charleston. Somewhere we could drive to and explore, keep the cost reasonable, and still have a great time. She looked at me like I had suggested we camp in my backyard. "Everyone takes tropical vacations for anniversaries," she said. "That's what couples do. Couples also go into debt for Instagram photos and then fight about money for the next 3 years. I'd rather not do that. You're always so worried about money. When are you going to just live a little?" That became her favorite line. Anytime I hesitated on spending. Anytime I suggested a cheaper alternative. Anytime I questioned whether we really needed something. "When are you going to just live a little?" As if financial responsibility and enjoying life were mutually exclusive. As if the only way to live was to spend money you do not have on things you do not need to impress people you do not like. Then came the credit card conversation in early November. We were having dinner at my place. Pasta I made from scratch because I was not paying $80 for carbs in a restaurant. And she brought up that she was having trouble keeping up with her credit card payments. She said her commissions had been slower that quarter, but she had a few big sales about to close. How much are we talking? I asked. Just like $3,000 across 2 cards. But it's fine. I'll figure it out. Red Flag City. But she was my girlfriend, and she was stressed about money. I offered to help her make a budget. I showed her my spreadsheet system. I explained how I track every expense and plan for big purchases. She looked at my Excel sheet like I had just shown her advanced calculus. That's a lot, she said. I don't really do numbers like that. It's literally just writing down what you spend and making sure you don't spend more than you make. Yeah, but that's so restricting. Life is about experiences, not counting pennies. I should have run right there. Instead, she asked if she could add her cards to my online banking just to see how you organize things, and maybe I could help make sure they got paid on time. She said it was temporary, just until her big commissions came through in December. Like an absolute genius, I said yes. I added her Chase card and her Amex to my bank's bill pay system. I set them up to auto-pay the minimum payments each month so she would not tank her credit score. I figured I would help her out for a month or two until she got back on track. November was when I started noticing the charges. She had always been into nice things, but this was different. Nordstrom charges every few days. $180 here, $240 there. Sephora hauls that ran $300 or more for makeup and skincare products with names I could not pronounce. Dinner reservations at places I had never heard of. Always splitting the bill with her friends, but racking up $90 to $120 per person tabs. Then, there was a weekend spa trip with her friends that she had never mentioned to me beforehand. She just suddenly disappeared for 2 days and came back glowing and relaxed. Every time I logged into my banking to check my own finances, I saw her card balances climbing. $3,000 became $4,500, then $6,000. The minimum payments kept going up. $180 for the Amex, $120 for the Chase card. I was hemorrhaging $300 a month just to keep her from tanking her credit score, and she was treating it like free money. The purchases were getting more ridiculous too. $85 for a candle because it was artisanal and hand-poured. $60 for a water bottle, not even a fancy insulated one, just a glass bottle with some brand name on it. $45 for a yoga mat when she did not even do yoga. She just thought it would motivate her to start. Another $200 at Lululemon for athletic wear that I never saw her work out in even once. She rationalized every purchase. The candle was for aromatherapy and mental health. The water bottle was an investment in staying hydrated. The yoga mat was about self-improvement. The Lululemon haul was because quality athletic wear would make her actually want to exercise. Even though the tag stayed on and the clothes ended up folded in her closet, still inside the shopping bag. When I brought it up, she brushed it off. It's work clothes. I need to look professional. Self-care is important. You don't understand the pressure of my job. Everyone in sales spends money on their appearance. She always had an excuse ready. Always had some justification that made me feel like I was being unreasonable for questioning $6,000 in credit card debt for a woman with a decent salary. One particular incident drove me nuts. She came over one Tuesday evening, excited about this amazing deal she got. She had bought 3 pairs of jeans from some boutique. Regular price would have been $480 total, but they were on sale for $340. She genuinely thought she had saved $140 and wanted me to celebrate with her. I tried to explain that spending $340 was still spending $340, not saving $140. I told her sales are designed to make you spend money you would not otherwise spend on things you do not actually need. I reminded her that she already owned probably 15 pairs of jeans. She got defensive. She said I was being negative, that I did not understand fashion, and that these were investment pieces that would last for years. 3 months later, I noticed all 3 pairs still had the tags on them, sitting in her closet untouched. She had forgotten she even bought them. The spa weekend particularly bothered me. She never mentioned going until after she was already there, posting Instagram stories from some luxury resort 2 hours away. Massages, facials, poolside drinks, the works. Meanwhile, I was watching charges hit her Amex that I was covering. $180 for the room, $120 for spa services, $90 for meals. I texted her asking about it and got back. Just needed a mental health weekend with the girls. We worked so hard. We deserve it. The minimum payment on her Amex alone was now $180 a month. The Chase card was $120. I was paying $300 monthly just to keep her credit cards from defaulting while she was out living her best life and posting about self-care and treating herself. Then came Thanksgiving week. Her company was doing this big holiday party at some country club. Black tie event, fancy dinner, open bar, the whole thing. She needed a new dress because obviously she could not wear anything she already owned. We went to this boutique she had been stalking on Instagram. The dress she wanted was $680. Not a typo. $680 for a dress she would wear once. Babe, this is the dress, she said. I have to have it. Everyone's going to be dressed up, and I need to look amazing. Olivia, that's like a mortgage payment for some people. But you don't have a mortgage, she shot back. You paid off your condo, so you can afford to treat your girlfriend. That logic was airtight, apparently. I did not buy the dress. It was the first time I had actually said no to something that expensive. She was mad for about 3 days. Barely texted me back. Posted passive-aggressive quotes on Instagram about knowing your worth and not settling for less. Then her mom called me. Patricia, who I had always gotten along with, called me while I was at work. She said she had heard about the dress situation and wanted to make sure everything was okay with us. Then she launched into this whole speech about how Olivia was used to a certain lifestyle, how her father had always provided well for the family, and how important it was that her daughter felt valued and cherished. Translation: buy the dress, or you are not good enough for my daughter. I was speechless. This woman was calling me at my job to pressure me into spending $680 on a dress. I explained that I was already covering Olivia's credit card bills to the tune of $300 a month, that I had bought her probably $2,000 worth of stuff in the previous few months, and that I was just trying to be financially responsible. Well, Patricia said, if you're struggling financially, maybe you need to evaluate whether you're ready for a serious relationship. Olivia deserves someone who can match her lifestyle. And there it was. I told Patricia I had to get back to work, then I hung up. I sat in my office just staring at the wall, processing what had just happened. My girlfriend's mother had essentially called me broke and told me to step up or step aside. That night, Olivia came over acting all sweet. She made it seem like she just wanted to talk. No pressure about the dress. We sat on my couch, and she took my hands. Look, she said, I know money is tight for you right now. It's not tight. I'm just not dropping $680 on a dress. Okay, but I need you to understand something. I have a certain standard I'm used to. My dad always made sure my mom had nice things. That's what love looks like to me. And if you can't afford my lifestyle, maybe you need to step aside for someone who can. She said it so casually, like she was commenting on the weather. Not with anger. Not even with real malice. Just matter of fact. This is what I need, and if you cannot provide it, I will find someone who will. I just looked at her for a long moment. Really looked at her. The designer purse I had bought her was sitting on my coffee table. The expensive shoes she was wearing were shoes I had paid for. The jewelry she had picked out and I had purchased for her birthday. Everything about her screamed high maintenance, and I had been too busy trying to be the good boyfriend to see it. Something clicked in my brain. That switch flipped from trying to make this work to realizing that this woman saw me as an ATM with feelings, not as a partner. You're absolutely right, I said. She blinked. What? You're right. If I can't afford your lifestyle, I should step aside. So let's do that. Wait, what are you saying? I'm saying we're done. You can find someone who wants to bankroll your shopping addiction and your Instagram aesthetic. That's not me. I could see panic spread across her face. She realized she had miscalculated. This was not how that conversation was supposed to go. She was supposed to guilt me into buying the dress, into stepping up, into being the man she thought I should be. Babe, no, I didn't mean. You literally just told me to step aside if I can't afford you, so I'm stepping aside. We're done. I was just stressed about the party. I didn't mean it like that. How else could you have possibly meant it? You gave me an ultimatum. Fund your lifestyle or get out of the way. I'm choosing option 2. She started crying then. Real tears. Not the strategic tears she had used before to get me to buy her things. We can work this out, she said. We can talk about this. I was just being emotional. Emotional about what? About me not wanting to spend $680 on a dress you'll wear once? About me actually having boundaries with money? About me refusing to keep enabling you to live beyond your means? It's not like that. It's exactly like that. You've been using me as a bank account for months. The purse, the shoes, the tires, the credit cards, all of it. I was so busy trying to be a good boyfriend that I didn't see. I was just being used. That's not fair. I care about you. You care about what I can buy you. There's a difference. She tried to backtrack more. She said she loved me. She said we could compromise. She said she would be better with money. All the things people say when they realize the free ride is ending. I was not buying any of it. Olivia, leave. We're done. This conversation is over. Can we at least talk about this tomorrow when we've both calmed down? There's nothing to talk about. You made it clear what you value. And it's not me. It's what I can provide financially. That's not a relationship I want to be in. She stood there for another minute, crying and trying different angles. Maybe we could go to counseling. Maybe she could change. Maybe I was overreacting. Every sentence started with maybe because she knew she had screwed up, but she could not quite admit it. Finally, she left, still crying, still trying to convince me that this was fixable. I closed the door behind her and just stood there for a minute, processing what had happened. Then I grabbed my laptop and got to work. The next morning, I logged into my bank account and removed both of her credit cards from my bill pay. I called both credit card companies and had them remove my banking information from her accounts. It took maybe 10 minutes total. Then I blocked her number and all of her social media. Clean break. No room for negotiation. No room for manipulation. I changed my door code because she had the old one. I updated my Netflix and Hulu passwords because she had been using my accounts. I went full scorched earth. The credit card thing was the key move. I had been covering her minimum payments automatically. She never had to think about it. She never got late notices. She never had to face the consequences of spending $6,000 she did not have. Now those cards were back in her hands, with balances she could not pay and auto-pay turned off. That Friday was her company holiday party. I found this out later from a mutual friend who still followed her on Instagram. Apparently, Olivia ended up buying the dress anyway. She put it on one of the credit cards I was no longer paying. She showed up to this fancy country club event looking like $1,000,000, posting photos, living her best life. She brought a date. Some sales director from a different pharmaceutical company she had met at a conference. Older guy. Drove a Lexus. Wore expensive suits. Exactly the kind of guy who could afford her lifestyle. They had dinner at the country club, then apparently decided to extend the evening by going to this Michelin star restaurant downtown called the Monarch Room. It was one of those places where the tasting menu starts at $185 per person, and they describe every dish like it is a work of art. She offered to treat, since this guy had paid for their country club dinner. She was trying to impress him, trying to show she was sophisticated and successful, not some gold digger looking for a meal ticket. She ordered the full tasting menu for both of them, added the wine pairing, appetizers, multiple courses, dessert, the works. The bill came to just over $500 before tip. She handed the server her Amex with total confidence. Card declined. She tried the Chase card. Also declined. Both cards were maxed out, and she had missed the minimum payments since I stopped covering them a week earlier. The credit card companies had frozen her accounts. According to my mutual friend, who heard it from someone who was there, Olivia went completely pale. She started stammering about how there must be some mistake, maybe fraud. She would have to call her bank. Her date ended up paying, but he was clearly not happy about it. He paid the bill and basically left immediately. No nightcap, no second date energy. She called me 17 times that night. I know because even though I had blocked her, the calls still showed up in my blocked calls list. She left me voicemails crying and screaming about how I had humiliated her. How could I do this to her? How I had ruined her relationship with this new guy. Then came the texts from friends' phones I had not blocked yet. You're an asshole for abandoning me financially. I'm in debt because of you. Everyone knows what you did and thinks you're trash. My parents are so disappointed in you. I did not respond to any of it. I just kept blocking numbers as they popped up. Her mom, Patricia, tried calling from her dad's phone a few days later. I actually answered that one because I respected Robert. You need to do the right thing and help Olivia with these credit card bills, Patricia said. She's struggling because you pulled the rug out from under her. Patricia, I was never obligated to pay her credit cards in the first place. That was me being generous, and she took advantage of it. She thought you were a partnership. That's what couples do. Partnerships are equal. I was funding her lifestyle while she spent money she didn't have. That's not a partnership. That's financial abuse going the other direction. Her credit score dropped 80 points. Because she maxed out 2 credit cards and missed payments? That's not my fault or my problem. She's 29 years old. She can handle her own finances. Patricia went quiet for a second, then hit me with, Robert is very disappointed in you. Put him on the phone then. She would not, because Robert probably did not even know she was calling. That guy was too practical to think I should be paying his adult daughter's credit card bills. I hung up and blocked that number too. The Instagram fallout was apparently epic. Olivia posted some vague story about fake people who pretend to care about you, then abandon you when you need them most, complete with a sad selfie. Her friends rallied around her in the comments, talking about how she deserved better and had clearly dodged a bullet. But then some mutual acquaintances who knew the real story started pushing back. Someone commented asking if this was about expecting her boyfriend to pay her bills. Another person pointed out that financial responsibility was not the same thing as being cheap. The post got messy enough that she deleted it. She tried one final approach in mid-December. She showed up at my condo unannounced, looking upset but not crying. More composed this time. She said she had been thinking about everything and realized she had been unfair. She said she wanted to work things out. She said she valued our relationship more than money or lifestyle. I did not let her in. We talked through the doorway. Did you pay off your credit cards? I asked. I'm working on a payment plan. So no. It's not that simple. I had to ask my parents for help. Good. They raised you to think money grows on trees. They can deal with the consequences. That's not fair. I just had different expectations for how a relationship should work. Right. You expected me to fund your lifestyle while you pretended to be more successful than you actually are. I expected a partner, not a dependent. She tried the tears then. She said I was being cruel. She said she had learned her lesson. She said people make mistakes. I told her the mistake was mine for not seeing this coming sooner. Then I closed the door. She finally stopped trying after that. The aftermath was interesting. I found out through the same mutual friend that Olivia had to move back in with her parents because she could not afford her luxury apartment anymore. That $2,200 monthly rent looked great on Instagram, but it ate up most of her paycheck after car payments and credit card minimums. She had been late on rent twice before I cut her off, and after I stopped covering her credit cards, the whole house of cards collapsed. The BMW got returned to the dealership when her lease ended in February, and she could not afford a new one, or even buy out the old one. She is driving her mom's old Honda Accord now, a 2014 model with cloth seats and manual windows. It still runs fine, totally reliable car, but definitely not the look she was going for. Last I saw on someone's Instagram story, she had parked it around the corner from wherever she was going so it would not show up in photos. Can't have people knowing you drive a decade-old Honda when you are trying to maintain that luxury lifestyle aesthetic. The pharmaceutical sales job apparently had a terrible quarter, and she got let go in January during downsizing. Something about not hitting her targets. Probably because she was too focused on maintaining appearances instead of actually working. When you spend your workday thinking about what outfit to post on Instagram instead of closing sales, your numbers tend to suffer. Her sales manager probably noticed she was more interested in looking successful than actually being successful. I heard through the grapevine that her commissions had been falling for months before she got fired. She had been coasting on a few big accounts she landed back when she was actually hustling, but she was not bringing in new business. Too busy brunching and shopping and maintaining her social media presence to do the actual cold calls and client meetings that pharmaceutical sales requires. Last I heard, she was working retail at Nordstrom, the same store where she used to drop hundreds on my credit card. The irony is not lost on me. Now she is on the other side of the counter, helping other women with more money than sense buy overpriced clothes they do not need. She probably makes about $15 an hour plus commission, which means she earns in a month what she used to spend in a week. The employee discount probably helps, though. I would bet money she is still charging more clothes than she can afford. Some people never learn. They just adjust their shopping to whatever their new budget allows and find new ways to go into debt. Her mom, Patricia, apparently had a falling out with her own sister over the whole situation. Olivia's aunt, Rebecca, told Patricia straight up that spoiling Olivia and teaching her that men should bankroll her lifestyle had created this mess. She said raising a daughter to value appearance over substance, credit over cash, and looking rich over being financially stable was bad parenting with predictable consequences. Patricia did not take that well. From what I heard, Thanksgiving dinner last year was incredibly awkward, with half the family taking Rebecca's side and the other half defending Patricia's parenting choices. They are apparently still not talking, which is wild. A whole family rift because Patricia could not accept that maybe her sister had a point. Robert, Olivia's dad, reportedly stayed out of it. The guy is too practical to defend the indefensible. He knows his daughter messed up. He knows his wife enabled it. He knows I was not wrong for walking away. But he is not about to get in the middle of his wife fighting with her sister, so he keeps his head down and focuses on his construction business. Part of me feels bad for Robert. The dude worked hard his whole life, built a successful company, provided well for his family, and this is what his daughter learned from all of it. That money just appears, and will always be there to bail you out of bad decisions. As for me, I took the $300 a month I had been wasting on her credit card minimums and increased my $401k contribution. The money I had been spending on her lifestyle went into my investment accounts. I added to my emergency fund. I started putting aside cash for a motorcycle I had been wanting. The motorcycle fund hit $8,000 by March. I bought a used Indian Scout from a guy 2 towns over who barely rode it. Paid cash. Got him down $1,500 from his asking price. The thing is beautiful, and it is mine. No payments, no debt. I have been on a few dates since then, but nothing serious. I went out with a woman from my gym in January. She was a physical therapist, drove a paid-off Toyota, and actually laughed when I mentioned tracking expenses in a spreadsheet. We went to a decent restaurant. She insisted on splitting the bill. Did not post a single photo on social media. I saw her a few more times, but the chemistry was not quite there. We are still friendly, though. I met someone else in February through a buddy from work. She is an accountant, owns her own small firm, drives a sensible sedan, and lives in a modest house she is paying down aggressively. For our first date, she suggested coffee. Our second date was a hike. On the third date, she cooked dinner at her place. We split everything evenly. She never expected me to fund her lifestyle. She actually got excited when I showed her my investment portfolio strategy. We will see where it goes. But it is refreshing to date someone who sees money as a tool for building a future instead of something to light on fire for Instagram content. I got a promotion at work in April. Senior project manager position with a 15% raise. I celebrated by taking myself to a nice steakhouse, ordering exactly what I wanted, and not worrying about someone else's credit card bill showing up in my bank account. The Indian Scout has been perfect for weekend rides. I joined a local riding group and met some solid guys who were into bikes and actually maintaining them, not just posting photos. I have also been working on restoring a 1972 Triumph Bonneville in my garage that I picked up for $2,500. The engine needs a full rebuild, but that is half the fun. My condo's value has gone up about 20% since I bought it. I could sell tomorrow and walk away with a decent profit. But why would I? The place is paid off. It costs me basically nothing except property taxes and utilities. And the market is only going up. That is pretty much it. No drama, no debt. No one demanding that I prove my love through my bank account. Just living my life, building my wealth, and looking for someone who actually values the same things I do. Olivia can keep chasing that Instagram lifestyle with someone else's money. I am good over here.